Hello tubers, this is Rob Ager here. I'm currently in the process of putting together a huge study of the mega classic action horror movie Predator. Now some of you might think, what? Predator's just a dumb action movie, there's nothing to be studied in that. But Predator is actually an incredibly good movie. Its basic plot structure and character interactions are really well thought out. It does have several underhanded themes that can be overlooked, and the artistic and technical aesthetics are surprisingly sophisticated, if you study them. So here I'm going to give you folks a breakdown of one of the film's most intricately constructed scenes, Dylan's death at the hands of the Predator. Dylan is the second foremost human character in the movie, and so the scenes of him meeting his fate are given a lot more screen time than most of the other deaths. Firstly, a sense of doom is set up by when Dylan and Dutch say goodbye to each other with what the script describes as a farewell look.
Dylan. Just hold on to that damn chopper.
But in the lead up to his death, Dylan has a moment of clarity, a sort of redemption for his flawed character traits earlier in the film. He's been in denial about the alien threat for the last half hour or so of the movie.
You saying that Blaine and Hawkins were killed by a fucking lizard? It's a bullshit psych job. There's 2 or 3 men out there at the most. Fucking lizard.
And although he got a good look at the creature here, he hasn't quite accepted what he's dealing with yet. So when we get a view of the Predator where the shot shifts from blurred to sharp focus, it's like Dylan's awakening to reality.
Yeah. I see it.
As he and Mac begin making their way toward the Predator, the music goes against the bad omen moment he had with Dutch by giving us a false sense of positive anticipation. Until Mac dies, that is. So over to Dylan, and here's where things get quite intricate and even subliminal. The camera creeps up on him like it might be the Predator itself, even though the Predator actually sees in heat vision. So that's a subtle variation on the camera possibly being the bad guy's point of view cliché. Things are deceptively quiet here too. The music is low level with distant drums barely audible, suggesting a waiting threat. Dylan then looks for Mac and spots his corpse. The details here get really sneaky. The tilting zoom toward his reaction creates a feeling of dizzying unreality, like the ground itself has become unstable. Tilting shots are generally used for that very purpose in a lot of horror movies, but here it's combined with the zoom shot towards Mac's upside down dead face, another piece of gravity confusion. And Mac's dead eyes are looking, of all places, right at Dylan, which is pretty damned creepy. These two zooms give the impression that Dylan is coming face to face with death itself. And Mac's head should be mush, by the way, but conveniently for this moment it isn't. The face of death moment is cut away from by the sound of Mac's voice whispering.
Anytime.
Dylan spinning to face the position where the camera was sneaking up on him moments ago. If you haven't seen the film in a while, I'll just remind you that the Predator heard Mac say the words anytime to Dylan in an earlier scene.
Thanks.
For me, the repeat of that phrase here carries several insinuations. First, it's like a death omen, voices from the grave calling to Dylan. Second, it repeats his spin-about moment earlier where the alien recorded that same piece of dialogue, thus hinting that Dylan might get stabbed in the back here. Third, the words anytime suggest that his death could come at any second, as it did for Mac in an unexpected screen splatter of red. And fourth, it might actually be the case that the Predator identified with the Scorpion as a victim. It seems more concerned with the Scorpion than the human corpses. And the mandibles and claws of the Scorpion are kind of cross-symbolised, I think, with the Predator's own mandible face. Maybe not intentional, but I think it fits thematically anyway. The mimicking voice here is quickly followed by a gentle rattlesnake sound of the Predator's own voice.
Anytime.
So the film has pretty much entered supernatural subliminal horror mode, and it's doing a great job of it. So Dylan knows he's being watched, and when he spins we have another disorientating tilted shot of him. And then a point of view shot spanning the trees, which is also tilted. Actually, pretty much the entirety of the rest of the scene, from the moment he saw Mac's face, is shot with tilted angles, but it's made more subliminal by the fact that it's a forest setting. In a city or suburban setting, the angles of man-made structures would make the tilt very obvious. The straight tree trunks are the giveaway here, and that seems quite deliberate because most of the jungle shots in the movie don't have large numbers of straight trees like this. But here's an essential detail that I think helps the subliminal aspect of the scene even more. We see at the beginning that when Dylan finds Mac's corpse, he's crouching in a sort of trench with walls of dirt or foliage on either side. But after he hears the predator and spins around, suddenly he's not in a trench. The forest seems to have spat him out into the vulnerable open. The tilted shots continue with a specific emphasis on Dylan's terrified eyes, and the music is relatively silent until he faces the camera and the monster. The yellow flashing eyes thing doesn't make logical sense apart from the beast announcing its presence to its prey, and kinda looking like a pair of cat eyes in the dark maybe, and it's a means for the audience to recognise the beast's shape. But even while writing my study of this scene, I realised that the predator is actually visible a shot earlier than when Dylan notices it. I'd never picked up on that in dozens of previous viewings over the years. So the battle is on, and some unusual camera and editing work comes into play here. Dylan's movements are presented in painful slow motion, like his arms and his gun are too heavy, like he's in a bad dream. But the predator's movements and reactions are shown at normal speed, putting Dylan at great disadvantage. He manages to get a few rounds off in the predator's direction, but somehow misses, and it blasts his arm off with a sudden ramping of noise levels. We don't see the actual severing of the arm as it would be perhaps a little bit too gory, and the special effects would be more awkward. Dylan's pain is presented as the combination of him screaming in close-up and the gun continuing to fire in parallel with his scream. That's very effective, especially since it broke a long sequence of comparative silence. Dylan quickly recovers from the shock, which is unrealistic in itself, but it's necessary for the dramatics of the kill. His reactions continue to be shown in slow motion, though his scream plays at normal speed, and while the predator runs at what I think is the fastest that we ever see it move in the film. It shouldn't really move this fast, judging by later shots of it running. The jungle itself is now completely opened up around Dylan, even though he hasn't moved from where he was when he saw Mac's body. It's like he's been elevated on a sacrificial hill that's popped up beneath him. So he has one arm left and another gun, but in his nightmarish confusion he spins the long way around to try and counter his attacker, briefly turning his back to the approaching Harbinger while the camera arcs around him like it's the alien viewing him from right up close. We get a brief view of his stumped arm too, not enough to be gratuitous, but importantly noticeable. The predator now is just casually walking, and it reveals its double-bladed claw, which, convenient for dramatic tension, isn't invisible. And then what appears to be an intended couple of continuity errors. Dylan points his MP4 right at the monster. That's MP4 weapon, not audio file format of course. And he gets a couple of rounds off, but he hits nothing, even at point blank range. This seems to tie in with the early scene where it appeared to magically dodge bullets from the entire team.
Blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
The predator now goes for a gut-ripping uppercut that lifts Dylan off his feet like Vlad the Impaler might do. Also in that gun-firing moment, the camera emphasises his exposed stomach rather than the gun, so although we don't see the blade enter the flesh, the ripping of exposed torso is very strongly suggested. The lack of an on-screen bleeding stomach wound is compensated by the sudden appearance of blood on Dylan's face, but there wasn't any blood when the monster was charging in. Plus we have the continuation of tilted camera shots combined with Dylan being lifted off the ground, an even greater sense of confused gravity. Remember that the Predator also likes to hang its victims upside down. Finishing the scene, Dylan's intense scream ripples through the jungle at an almost superhuman volume. So, in spite of being a short scene, it's quite intricate and carefully thought out. The direction, cinematography, editing, plus the sound and music are all first rate. But I think the key thing is that the scene doesn't strictly follow formal logic. Instead, it uses surrealism to convey Dylan's sense of hopeless doom, and it makes us feel for him despite his personality flaws earlier in the story. It's actually quite a sad scene. We don't want to see him go. The scene is constructed according to the insane logic of nightmares, which are easy to look back upon and dismiss in the waking state, but when we're in the bad dream, it feels terrifyingly real. Okay, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed this. Full analysis of Predator coming soon, so keep an eye on my website, collativelearning.com. And in the meantime, if you want more film analysis, check out my back catalogue of downloadable videos and articles. This is Rob Ager, signing off.